Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. All right. So our project is the Boston Youth Mutual Aid Project. Myself and Gina Lee were the co-directors of this. So before I get started, I just want to ground us in a definition of mutual aid. So mutual aid projects are horizontal political approaches to community care, wherein people are taking responsibility for one another and taking the responsibility to change political conditions beyond just the traditional symbolic acts of putting pressure on representatives in government, and instead choosing to build new social relations that are more survivable. So the goals that we had for our students were to encourage them to be critical of extractive violence systems such as capitalism, but also paternalistic aid models, to imagine what social relations between themselves and their community could look like. So really digging into imagination work, and then also to support them in building and applying their critical thinking skills on social issues. So these are our 7 amazing students from the greater Boston area. Their interests range from racial inequality to youth movement building to envisioning alternative futures for communities. And most of them were rising juniors. One was a recent graduate of high school, but they were all phenomenal. And we were so fortunate to partner with Zoomix and the Urban League of Eastern Massachusetts to work with the 7 of them. So this is just some of our curriculum that we had. So we had 8 weeks, 16 hours total of political aid education, or political education on mutual aid rather. And so on the left side, this is our week 2 introduction to mutual aid course. And so we introduced students to mutual aid theory, to mutual aid practice. We reviewed the Black Panther Party mutual aid project as a historical case study. We did some activities around like mutual aid in practice to ground students in this work. And then we also introduced them to the network of mutual aid models in Massachusetts so that they could tap into local resources to either contribute to mutual aid networks or benefit from. And then for week 4, we talked about defunding the police and racial capitalism and police abolition. And I think Gina and I definitely valued this week as one of our favorites because students got to do that imagination work to think about alternatives to capitalism and also to think about the violences that they see in their community. And they were able to build off of each other's visions. And we just had a really robust and rich conversation about what our collective futures could look like. And then we also did some theory work at the end, applying analytical frameworks, feminist lens, what does a race lens look like? What does a class lens look like? What does an anti-settler lens look like when thinking about what our futures could be? So the 8 weeks culminated in a participatory budgeting session where students were able to allocate $600 to Massachusetts-based, US-based, and international organizations of their choice. And so they were able to negotiate among themselves where they wanted to spend money. So we have like Massachusetts Bail Fund in here, New Beginnings, Reentry Services, Jouet Lab, which is that is an organization that's started by someone at the same high school as one of our students. And so it was really nice to support some local projects. And we could not have done this without BCAP and without Brenda, who matched BCAP's grants. And so this was a really nice experience to be a part of for the students. And then just to end, I think for Gina and I, our program was born out of this shared belief that the only possible relationship to the university today is a criminal one. And so we interpreted that to mean that we must drain resources and power away from the institution of academia. And so what that means is we want to undermine the academy's reign on knowledge production. And so what we learned, we wanted to make sure that we were returning that to the community and giving students the chance to engage in the alternative political educations that we were able to experience at MIT amongst our peers in our classrooms at DUSP. And so the ultimate goal is to support young Black and Brown students and envisioning new anti-capitalist futures. So thank you all so much.